So I'm 27F, 7 months pregnant, and my mother-in-law and sister-in-law recently hosted a baby shower for me, about a week ago. My mother-in-law Donna, 55F, and my sister-in-law Erica, 30F, don't like me for a couple of reasons. My husband Thomas, 30M, married me about a year ago, and I quit my job after that because I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. It wasn't that I didn't want to work, I'd just been working for a really long time and I needed a break. I'd been working ever since I was 16 and didn't stop until I had a ring on my finger, and only when Thomas told me that he'd be okay with me staying at home. My dad passed away when I was 12 from a cardiac arrest, and after that, it was just me and my mother. My mother was a waitress at the local diner and money was tight, so I had to start working part-time at 16 and then full-time once I was done with high school. I didn't even get to go to college, but thankfully, I worked in sales and I was decent at my job, so I was able to bring home enough income for my mother and I to get by. It was through work that I met Thomas. We hit it off at a conference and the rest is history. Unfortunately, while my life story of rags to riches might seem fascinating to most people, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law do not agree and think that I am a gold digger. Thomas was a branch manager at his firm and worked in a much higher position than me when I first met him, but that was not what drew me to him. I've never been able to explain to Donna and Erica that his bank balance had nothing to do with my love for him, and I would have married him even if he was a pauper. I knew that they would never accept me, so I didn't even try to impress them or win them over, and that just made me even more unpopular with them. In short, they didn't like me and I didn't try to make them, so we just never got along. But after I announced my pregnancy, the two of them suddenly started showing an interest in my life, and I guess that was because I was carrying Thomas' future child. Because otherwise they would avoid talking to me as much as they could and would only be civil to me out of courtesy. They started being very helpful and kind to me after the pregnancy announcement, and Thomas believed that they were finally warming up to me, but I could tell that something fishy was going on. It was just my sixth sense. I couldn't bring myself to fully trust them, but after a couple of months, when they still hadn't said or done anything cruel to me, I started to believe that maybe they were actually trying to make amends for all the digs and insults in the past, implying that I was a gold digger and I was with Thomas just for his money. So I started trusting them and thought of them as my well-wishers, which they most certainly are not. A couple of weeks ago, they asked me if I was okay with them hosting a baby shower for me. By then, they had established enough trust with me, so I greenlit it and even provided them with a list of guests I wanted to be invited to my baby shower. My mother wanted to be involved in the planning, but Donna and Erica told her that they'd got it and that she didn't need to worry about anything. I guess I should have known right then that there was something weird going on, but I didn't suspect anything. I figured that they just wanted it to be a surprise for me, so they didn't want my mother to be involved. Weeks passed and I didn't hear anything about the baby shower until they sent me an invitation. I even checked in with all the guests that I had asked for. And all of them received it as well, so I believed that they were doing everything perfectly and I was actually happy. Then, last week, finally on the day of the baby shower, I accidentally read the time wrong and showed up an hour early at the venue. They wanted it to be an all-women event because they wanted to take the more traditional route. And I was okay with it, so my husband wasn't there and I had to take a cab to get to the venue because I didn't feel like driving. Once I got there, I realized that I was an hour early since I couldn't see any cars in the parking lot apart from Donna's. So I decided to give them a surprise and made sure that I headed towards the doors very quietly, so they wouldn't hear me coming, and then I peeked in, to check out what they were up to. I saw them casting a video on a screen that they'd set up, and it was just the two of them having a go at me in the video, saying the most horrible things about me and then laughing. I could tell that the video was from quite a while back because in the video, Erica had blonde hair and she only had that shade around the time of my wedding, so I guess that this video had probably been recorded at that time. I was horrified at the things that they were saying, and I couldn't believe that they were playing this in the place where they were supposed to host my baby shower. One of the things that Erica said was that she knew for a fact that I'd probably get pregnant within the first year of my marriage, so that I could really tie her brother down and he'd never be able to escape ever. And even if he tried to, I would always have the child support and alimony to look forward to. And then the two of them laughed in the video and also in real life. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to enter the room and confront them about that video. They were pretty startled to see me and tried to stop sharing it on that screen, but they didn't know that it was already too late and I'd seen everything that they didn't want me to see. I asked them why they were playing that video and when they had even recorded it or why. So Erica tried to explain to me that this was a roast video that they had recorded for my wedding, but they didn't actually get to play it because Thomas threatened to cut ties with them if they pulled off something like that. And honestly, good thinking on his part. Because I wouldn't have been able to tolerate this at my wedding. I know that roasts are meant to be funny, but it's only funny when people who you love are the ones roasting you. Not so much when you know that the people saying terrible things about you actually mean those things. And I knew for a fact that Erica and Donna meant every single word of what they were saying in that video. They tried to tell me that they had included the pregnancy joke, so they could play it at the baby shower and pass it off as a joke, since now Thomas couldn't have a say in this. And then they told me that the intention of the video was to show that this is what they used to think of me back when I first married Thomas, but now that I was really a part of the family, they had accepted me. And apparently, They even had a big speech planned after that video, where they were going to tell me how much they loved me and what I meant to them. They said that the intention of playing this video was to show how far we had come as a family. But I didn't buy it and I stormed out of the place, called Thomas and demanded that he pick me up and take me back home. I explained everything to him on the phone, and since he already knew what video I was talking about, he got everything instantly and I didn't have to waste much time. After I was done with the phone call, Donna and Erica came running out of the venue after me, to convince me to stay, and kept asking me to forgive them. They didn't consider how I would feel on watching this video, they were only thinking about how heartfelt this would seem, but now they realized that this was a stupid idea. They kept telling me that they didn't mean to hurt me, but that meant nothing to me because I had trusted them with my baby shower and they had completely shattered all the trust I had put in them by planning to play that video. I told them to back off, but they didn't listen to me and kept trying to get me to stay. So I finally just snapped and told them that I wasn't interested in whatever they'd planned for me, because now I knew what they really thought of me. And I didn't believe them, even for a second, when they said that they were going to make a speech about how much they loved me afterward. I also yelled at them that I wasn't just a baby carrier and I was my own person. So if it took a pregnancy to make them approve of me, then I didn't need that approval at all and we could go back to not having a relationship like before. Because I would prefer that, rather than being a part of their fake and pretentious little club. I told both of them that neither of them would have amounted to anything had it not been for my father-in-law, who supported Donna even though she was pathetic at her job and almost got fired, but her husband made his brother hire her as an accountant so she'd still have a job without having to work too hard. And he got Erica a spot at the best business school in the city, even though she didn't have the grades for it and he needed to use his connections to get her in. Neither of them knew about these things and only Thomas and his father were aware of it. But he's told me these family secrets a long time back to make me feel better after a particularly horrible dinner at his parents' house, where Donna and Erica wouldn't stop mocking me. Their faces fell when I brought that up and they looked even more upset when I told them that they had absolutely nothing to be so proud and arrogant about. Because if they had to face the same kind of struggles in their lives as I had too, then they probably wouldn't be so smug. Living a life like mine would have broken both their flimsy little spirits and they had no right to question me, especially given their own incompetence. In the meantime, Thomas pulled up and I got into his car and then, we left the venue without any further discussion. They still tried to talk to me while I was leaving, but I rolled up my windows and we drove away. Thomas had heard the last part, where I was yelling at them and talking about whatever my father-in-law had done for them, and he told me that he didn't think it was a good idea for me to tell them about it. I didn't reply to that and he didn't bring it up later. Of course, the party and everything had to be cancelled at the very last moment because I wasn't even there. And nobody apart from my mom knew the real reason why until my husband told his relatives to explain why the event had to be called off, and most of them are on my side, which means that Erica and Donna don't have anybody. She thought that I did the right thing, including me bringing up how the two of them had so much help that I didn't. And they were judging me because they came from my place of privilege and could afford to pass judgments on someone that they knew absolutely nothing about. I didn't hear from either of them for a couple of days, and Thomas and I didn't discuss it either. He apologized to me on behalf of his family, but that was about it, and we didn't talk about it anymore because it's not like this was his fault. However, a couple of days ago, I received a letter from my father-in-law, Raymond. We usually got along well and he didn't have the problems with me that his wife and daughter seemed to. But this time, he was furious because of the secrets that I'd revealed to Donna and Erica. He told me that it was absolutely not my place to tell him about something like this, which he had decided to keep from them for so long for the sake of their own self-esteem. And now I'd undone all the work that he had put in. Both of them were totally miserable, just because I decided to make them feel bad about themselves and get back at them. I tried to defend myself by telling him what they'd been planning to do, and I believe that what I said was completely justified because they'd been picking on me for years before I finally snapped. He told me that he could understand that I was upset, but it was still not my place to bring that up, and he was extremely disappointed in me. We haven't spoken since then, and when I try to talk to Thomas about it, he says that he has nothing to say, but I think he is dodging the question because he feels the same way as his father. Ida for telling my mill and SIL that they'd be nothing without my father-in-law's help? Update 1. So I decided that I was not going to apologize to Donna and Erica because I really don't think I said anything out of line. They've been picking on me ever since they met me, and this time, I finally decided to snap at them and let them know exactly what I thought of them. They can't always get away with everything that they say and do, just because Thomas and Raymond believe that this would make them feel bad about themselves. Over the years, there have been several instances where the two of them have ganged up against me and made me feel bad. But nobody's talking about that. So why is it such a big deal if I do the same thing to them that they've been doing to me for years? I also told Thomas about how I felt because I sensed that he agreed with his father. Now I couldn't care less about what Raymond thinks, but I need my husband to be on my side. And so far he's always maintained the peace of the family by telling me to ignore whatever his mother and sister say, but I feel like he needs to realize that I'm his wife and he needs to stand up for me. So I told him that he cannot have this diplomatic approach to things between me and them anymore because that's unfair to all of us and he needs to pick a side. I was afraid that he would disagree with me or fight with me over this, but he agreed wholeheartedly and even apologized to me for being too scared to do the right thing. He confessed that he was afraid that if he stood up for me and fought with his mom and sister, he would be ostracized from the family, and they mean a lot to him despite their behavior. So he was afraid of standing up for me. But he did realize now that he had a duty towards me as well and couldn't just always expect me to suck it up and keep ignoring every little thing that they did just because I was stronger than them. It wasn't fair to me, and he'd come to the conclusion that he was going to cut his family off now. I was touched because I know what family means to him, but I guess now it's about time that there are some real consequences to Donna and Erica's actions, because I still haven't forgiven them for whatever I saw in that video. And they haven't apologized to me or reached out to me after I left that day. Which is fine by me, because I don't want them to do that either. I don't think it will fix anything, and it will probably just piss me off even more. Some of you in the comments said that I was overreacting because it was just meant to be a roast and they were going to make it up to me by giving a heartfelt speech afterwards. But that means nothing to me. I'm sure that there are a lot better ways to show your love to a heavily pregnant woman at her baby shower than a roast video, especially when you know that they meant everything that they said and they're not just kidding. So I don't think that I am overreacting. This is the perfect reaction. I didn't even ask them to host it for me, they were the ones who offered to take over. Only to let me down in the end. I feel betrayed and hurt, and that's not going to go anywhere. Update 2. So now that it's been a week since the baby shower incident and we haven't been talking to Thomas' family, I thought that things had finally cooled down a bit. But I guess Erica isn't okay with that. I hadn't blocked anybody because I honestly just forgot that we could do that. So I got a text from her early this morning, where she started off pretty well, and apologized to me because they hadn't thought things through while preparing for the baby shower. But then she said that she wanted an apology from me for both her and Donna because she believed that what I said was out of line. I could hardly believe the audacity to ask me for an apology after what I saw that day. And especially after the way they've been treating me for the past couple of years. They never even gave me a chance and just assumed that I was a gold digger without bothering to even get to know me. At least the things that I said about them were true. Erica said in her text that it was not my place to say things like that about them. And even if they did come from a place of privilege, it was none of my business. Which was just so ironic because they'd always made it a point to remind me where I came from, and now these were the same people saying that it was none of my business where they came from. To them, my being poor was an actual problem, and they just couldn't accept the fact that I didn't come from a financially wealthy background like they did. They felt free to criticize me for it all they wanted to, but now that they're getting a taste of their own bitter medicine, they don't like it. I treated the text as a joke because honestly, what was I even supposed to say to that? It was a ridiculously entitled and tone-deaf thing to say, which is what I expect of Erica, so I'm honestly not surprised. I know they wanted an apology, and I probably should have responded with something snarky or mean to put them in their place, but it just didn't even seem worth it. If I replied to them, that would just lead to more drama, and that's the last thing that I needed, so I ignored it. Because Thomas was right, the only thing that I could do was ignore them and hope that they would go away. It's kind of sad because I actually believed that we were becoming friends over the course of my pregnancy, but evidently, I was mistaken. These two idiots are too stupid to actually be friends with anyone apart from like-minded idiots. I haven't told Thomas about this yet because he hasn't come home from work. But as soon as he does, I'm going to fill him in and see what he has to say about Erica sending me this text. We haven't been discussing them at all ever since the last update, so I think it's been a couple of days now. And it sucks that I have to bring it up again because I know he's hurting. However, I have no choice, and I know that we have to talk about this and come to a conclusion about what we can do about it. Because when the baby comes, I don't want us to be fighting over what we need to do about his family and whether they should be allowed to have a relationship with the baby or not. We have to discuss it, and we have to talk about them now. Update 3. My last update was just a couple of hours ago, and it feels funny to be back so soon. But this is important and I need to talk about this, so here I am. Thomas and I talked about Erica and her text after dinner, once he was well rested and well fed. I asked him if he thinks they should be allowed to see the baby once we have him/her. Because at the rate things are going with his family, I don't think I want to stay in touch with them. I want to make no contact, at least until they actually come to their senses and apologize to me. He thought about it for a while and then told me that it was my call entirely. Because I was the one that they'd been disrespecting all along. So now it was up to me if I wanted them around me and the baby or not. He said that while he personally would want to stay in touch with his family and try to work things out between us to clear the air eventually, he knew that it was not his place to make that decision for me, so whatever I say, goes. I thought that it was pretty sweet of him to leave it completely up to me, and he did have a point, too. Thomas also mentioned that I was the one who was pregnant, I was the one going through so much, and so, it would be his duty to make sure that I'm well taken care of because right now, his new family is his priority. And so he left it up to me, what we should do about his family. I told him that I was going to take some time, think about it, and then let him know eventually. It's too soon for me to come to a decision right now. Update 4. I guess I made my decision. I don't think I'm going to allow Thomas' crazy family around me or my child anymore. I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but now I know that they are incapable of change and I don't want my baby around them in any capacity. Thomas had a day off today and he was staying at home with me to spend some quality time, which was really lucky for me. Today, all three, Erica, Donna, and Raymond showed up at the house to have a discussion with me about my behavior. They claimed that they were here to discuss things, but it felt more like an ambush, and I was really lucky to have Thomas there. Because he nipped it in the bud and told them all to go home since I wasn't willing to speak to them. Erica was the one who was the most angry about all of this, and I could hear them all arguing on the front steps. She was telling him that the only reason that they'd ever doubted me and my intentions was because they were looking out for him. Since I didn't come from a financially stable background, they didn't want him to get stuck with a gold digger, which is why they'd been giving me such a hard time. I was furious and almost went to the porch to argue with them myself, but Thomas handled it pretty well and tore them a new one. He called them a lot of names that I don't want to repeat here, told them off, and even informed them that when the baby was here, they wouldn't be allowed to see any of us. Because they were disrespectful and were blatantly crossing all boundaries possible. After a couple of minutes, Raymond intervened and told Thomas that he was cutting him out of the family until he came to his senses and divorced me because I was apparently leading him away from them, and then they left. Thomas seemed relieved when he came back to me, and we spent the rest of the afternoon just talking and making fun of everybody behind their backs. So I'd say that this was a great day, and I'm pretty content with how things turned out.